Want to know what most travel guides won't tell you about Japan? After 20 years of being connected to the country, speaking Japanese, working for Japanese companies, living with a Japanese family, I've discovered 10 brutally honest truths that will completely transform your trip. These aren't complaints or warnings. They're the real insights that will help you connect more deeply, avoid common disappointments, and experience Japan in a way most tourists never will. And truth number 6, it single-handedly changed how I approach Japan travel altogether, and it takes only just a few minutes to implement into your next trip. Traveling to Japan for the first time, I've helped tons of people go to the country, and don't worry, I've got you covered with my free travel guide and the links in the description. You know what's crazy? The single most shocking thing I discovered when I first came to Japan when I was 13 wasn't the high-tech toilets or vending machines that sell everything. It was realizing that Japanese teenagers were, well, just regular teenagers. They had similar insecurities that I did. They had similar dreams about their future. They had the same eye-rolling reactions from their parents. And this realization completely changed how I experienced the country. Japanese people are just people. Here's the brutal truth. Japanese people aren't characters from your favorite anime or stoic samurai from like a history book. They're individuals with their own personalities, preferences, and quirks, just like anywhere else in the world. Why does this matter for your trip? Because approaching Japan with this understanding transforms every interaction from a cultural checkbox into genuine human connection. Instead of going to Japan to see the Japanese, you go to meet Tanaka-san, who has strong opinions about baseball, or the elderly shop owner who spent 40 years perfecting one dish, or the college student who's just as curious about your life as you are about hers. And I'll tell you something even more surprising about Japanese people in truth number 4. But first, let's talk about another huge misconception that might be shaping your expectations. So picture this. You arrive in Tokyo wearing your favorite anime merch and are eager to connect with locals over your shared love of all that is Japanese animation. You ask your hotel receptionist about the latest episode of a popular anime, and they respond with a polite but blank stare. Well, what just happened? Despite what the internet might have you believe, anime and manga are not universally beloved by all Japanese people. Honestly, many people haven't watched recent anime or read manga since high school. It's kind of like assuming every American person is obsessed with Marvel movies or every British person loves, I don't know, like tea and crumpets or something. I've had countless conversations with Japanese friends who tell me all the time that they haven't seen the latest anime that everybody's talking about. Just like anywhere else in the world, people have different interests. I mean, I know this might sound a little disappointing, but here's why it's actually a bit freeing. It prevents you from reducing an entire culture to one single export. And when you do find somebody who shares that same passion that you have, the connection feels a bit more meaningful. But speaking of cultural misconceptions, wait until you hear this next one. It's something that happened to me despite years of speaking Japanese and living with a Japanese family. Let's be real. No matter how many etiquette guides you study or YouTube videos you watch, you're going to make cultural mistakes in Japan. It's gonna happen. Like, it's unavoidable. And you know what? Honestly, that's completely fine. I've been speaking Japanese for years, have a Japanese host family who I call my Japanese family, and I still make mistakes. I remember one time I was having dinner with my Japanese family at a restaurant, and I offended the waitress with something I said or did. I don't know. It just sort of happened. But my Japanese dad looked at me and was like, yo, you need to apologize. And I did. It didn't turn into anything serious, but there I was with my Japanese family straight up offending somebody without even realizing it. So much for my cultural fluency badge, right? That one got revoked faster than you can say sumimasen. Here's the good news. Most Japanese people actually don't expect perfection from foreigners. I mean, you don't live there. There's even this thing called a gaijin pass, where certain social mistakes are forgiven because, well, they don't expect you to know any better. But don't get it twisted. This isn't just a license to be disrespectful. You need to make an effort to learn basic etiquette, but don't stress about perfection. If you make a mistake, a simple sumimasen, like I said earlier, sorry, goes a long way. But there's one area where making mistakes will cost you a little more than just embarrassment, and that brings us to this next one. So in many Western countries, we're used to the idea that money can customize any experience. Big baller. Money made weather. Want to upgrade your hotel room, add extra toppings to your pizza, get special treatment, fly to space, drive your car to a pool, whatever. Get any sort of special treatment, just pay more. But in Japan, I've discovered something that shocks a lot of first-time travelers. Culture and tradition often take precedence over accommodating any sort of request, even if you're willing to pay some extra bread. I've had clients get frustrated because they couldn't move king beds between hotel rooms, even if they were willing to pay more. No, you can't do it. High-end restaurants often have set menus with no substitutions allowed. No, you can't do it. Historical ryokans, Japanese inns maintain traditional layouts even when guests might ask for modern conveniences. No, you can't do it. Your platinum credit card might as well be plastic toy money in some cases when it comes to changing these centuries-old traditions. It's not about being inflexible. It's about preserving the integrity of experiences that people have refined over centuries. That famous sushi restaurant has been perfecting its craft since the dawn of time. They're not going to change their recipe because you prefer more wasabi. I'm sorry. Understanding this difference balance and perspective will save you a ton of frustration. Instead of trying to modify every experience to fit your preferences, just try embracing them as they are. Speaking of expectations about service, let me tell you something about Japanese hospitality in this next point that most people completely miss. So Japan is famous for its omotenashi. It's a concept of hospitality where the service provider anticipates needs before you even ask for them. This level of service can feel amazing. I know where I'm from, sometimes, not the best. But here's the truth. Exceptional service doesn't mean the person serving you has any personal feelings towards you. It's professionalism, not friendship. Just like the barista who draws a heart in your latte foam isn't telling you they love you, unless they are. The hotel staff that's bowing as you come in aren't personally interested in how happy you are. They're performing their jobs at a high level of customer service, which is expected in Japanese culture. This is important because sometimes people misinterpret professional courtesy as personal interest, which can lead to awkward interactions where you might cross some boundaries. Have you ever experienced this sort of kind of cultural misunderstanding when you were traveling? Let me know in the comments below. But if great service isn't about making personal connections, how do you create meaningful experiences in Japan? Well, that brings me to truth number 6, which I mentioned in the beginning of the video. Completely changed how I travel. All right, so you've probably seen those travel influencers or YouTubers posting videos from remote villages saying this is the real Japan that tourists never see. Not that anybody that you know or I know has any video content that talks about the real Japan. But here's my controversial truth. Authentic experiences are not just exclusive to remote locations. Sure, going off the beaten path is absolutely a great idea. It alleviates tourist pressure and can lead to some amazing discoveries on your trip. But the most genuine connections normally happen when you least expect them, even in some more touristy areas. Let me tell you a quick story. I once visited Osaka to meet up with a guy named Carson. Shout out to Carson. I don't know if you're still living in Osaka, but man, what a legit dude. I met Carson on a plane. He was studying at a language school in Osaka, and my boy Sean and I decided to visit him because he was like, hey, you should come visit me in Osaka. So we were like, yeah, bet. We ended up at this random izakaya after rushing to get there. That's maybe a story for another day. And while I was there, I noticed a Chinese couple who didn't speak any Japanese. They were struggling to communicate with the waitstaff. You do. So since I speak a little bit of Japanese, I just jumped in. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. The staff was so happy, so appreciative that they gave her a whole table of free round of beer. I don't know if you guys drink beer, but Ebisu beer is kind of nice. So you know what I'm saying? Some free beers going, some nice food. This moment of connection with the people in the restaurant it sort of just happened because I was open to helping. So instead of obsessing over finding the real Japan that tourists don't see, focus on being thoughtful wherever you go. Talk to people, accept invitations, take the wrong turn sometimes. I know that sounds sketchy, but hey, that's cool, Desmond, that's great, but you speak Japanese. How do I connect with people when I don't speak the language? That's where this next point comes in. So while major cities like Tokyo have plenty of English-speaking staff in hotels and restaurants and tourist spots, when you go out into the more rural areas, the language barrier can become a bit more noticeable. And I get it, it can be intimidating, but it's not a reason to panic or just limit your experiences. In fact, navigating some of these barriers can actually lead to some of the most memorable travel moments on your trip. A few simple phrases can go a long way. Sumimasen. Arigatou gozaimasu. Eigo ga hanasemasu ka? I know, again, I said English. A lot of people in Japan speak English. If it's not English, then insert your language there, right? Wakarimasen. I don't understand. Toire wa doko desu ka? Where is the bathroom? This last one is crucial. Nothing quite ruins the magic of an ancient temple like trying to find a bathroom that you can't even ask for directions to. Even in places where English isn't widely spoken, there's usually somebody around who can help. There's English menus available at restaurants, and you can use translation apps like Google or whatever that can help solve a lot of practical problems. And when all else fails, the good old point and gesture. You know what I mean? Also, don't underestimate the power of a good old smile and being patient. Before I could speak Japanese, I feel like I've definitely ordered entire meals through elaborate charades. Some of that acting probably deserved an Oscar. Also, some of my most meaningful connections in Japan happened before I could even speak Japanese. I mean, I think there's something honestly sort of beautiful about being able to communicate beyond just words. It forces you to, I guess, kind of be present in a way that when you can communicate, you might not be. But there's another common misconception about Japanese people that could be affecting how you approach these types of conversations. And that brings us to our next truth. When I first visited Japan in 2005, things were a lot different than they are today. During that trip, I went with a group of other kids from my school, and we all got to go out to the suburbs of Tokyo, some of us to west of Tokyo, some of us north of Tokyo, and we got a chance to live like local middle school students. And honestly, you wouldn't believe it, man. This trip was crazy. For instance, it was so rare for us to be there that our visit was actually featured on the local news. Yeah, on the local news. Like, there was just some regular kids from the US visiting this other school, and that was considered newsworthy. Probably not in 2025. One of the craziest parts of the trip, and there's a lot that happened, maybe I'll cover that in another video, is we were walking down the school hallway, and a bunch of kids were sort of lined up to see us go from one of these classrooms to another, because we had like host siblings, right? So there's 7 of us. We had 7 Japanese kids that we were paired with. The rest of the kids that were there were literally just, they went to the school. So as we're walking down the hallway, you know, I had seen some anime, right? Some anime, right? I'm a 13-year-old boy. There's lots of pretty girls around, you know. So I'm in a different country. So, you know, your boy feeling himself. You feel me? I'm gonna say it again for the people in the back. I was feeling myself. So I got it in my head. I'm gonna hit the smooth operator face, walk by, wave at one of the girls, and, you know, give him one of these. Pop my head back forward and keep strolling, right? Maxing. I'm cooling. One of the girls that was with us on the trip, her name's Val. Val runs up to me as we walk past, and she goes, "Yo, that girl literally fainted when you waved at her." I said, "Huh?"
Call 911. She just passed out.
She's like, "Nah, she fainted." I'm like, "Prince fainted? Like Michael Jackson fainted?" Crazy. I'd be walking around the neighborhood and people would hit me with the, "Yo, gaijin," yo, foreigner. Like, just being a foreigner at this time made me some sort of crazy celebrity.
I'm the best.
But in 2025, bruh, not the case. The reality is a lot different, a lot more nuanced. In most major cities and tourist hotspots, foreigners are just a part of the backdrop. Most people are too busy with their own lives to really pay that much attention to you. So, and in some ways, honestly, it's a bit freeing. You can just sort of relax and enjoy your trip without feeling like somebody's constantly watching you. As long as you practice like basic common sense and respect the local customs, nobody's gonna be overanalyzing every single move you make. The pressure to be a perfect visitor, while it's good to understand the culture and respect it, is usually like self-imposed. That said, if you do visit some less visited areas, you might still be met with some curiosity. That's not necessarily a bad thing. When I was in Odawara with my wife and my daughter, some people did ask questions, and honestly, it wasn't like hostile, like in what you doing here kind of way. It was more like they had never seen an entire non-Japanese family just, I guess, doing their thing, you know. And so I had a really nice conversation with this woman in the grocery store. She said my daughter was cute. It was fun. It was cool, and it was just a positive interaction. And so yeah, it can still happen, but people ain't checking for you like that. So don't worry about it. But there is one aspect of being a foreigner in Japan that isn't always so positive. And that brings us to this next truth. This might actually be the most uncomfortable truth on the list, but I think it's super important to acknowledge. Japan, like every other place on earth or every other country, has issues with discrimination and bias. Surprise, surprise. I've definitely been stopped by police in Japan. I know I said people aren't checking for you like that. And again, this has only happened one time in the 20 or so years that I've been visiting this area. So again, one time in 20 years is not bad. But I think I was definitely stopped for being a foreigner in an area where foreigners weren't common. You know, I was like the wild Pokemon out there. And I think it was the time of day. It wasn't hostile or anything. It was just a quick ID check. But I do think it was based on how I was moving and what I looked like. I would kind of say it's like the equivalent of being, when you feel like you're getting stopped for the random airport security check, but that random airport security check seems to keep catching you. And his excuse was, yeah, I just wanted to make sure you were safe in case anything happened to you, that we can contact your people back in the US, which was true. But also,
What?
like, it wasn't hostile. Honestly, it was one of the nice police stops I ever been a part of. So there's that. I was at a bar and some dude thought I was Wiz Khalifa. I did get a free beer out of it, which was nice. One dude thought I was Eddie Murphy and just offered me a music career and to come sing in his studio. I've been denied entry into a restaurant probably because I was in a group of foreigners. Again, it's worth noting that a lot of times these situations arise because of some precedent. Unfortunately, some visitors have definitely abused systems or broken rules. For instance, people who do the gaijin smash, you smash your way through a subway gate without paying, or hopping on trains for free, like some recent YouTubers and people who causing these nuisance behaviors in Japan. And honestly, these behaviors create negative stereotypes that affect all types of foreign visitors. So while it might feel unfair to experience the extra scrutiny, sometimes it definitely comes from real experiences that police, shop owners, whoever have had with people who break rules, not always personal prejudice. Although, for some of my other Asian friends who go to Japan, I have heard different stories. So every place on earth struggles with this sort of thing. That being said, the vast majority of your interactions I've seen will be positive, but just having a healthy, realistic expectation that if you experience something negative, you can process that with context and not just be shocked and get a shock to your system, like my man Static Shock would say. Have you had a surprising travel experience while in Japan or another country? Definitely share it in the comments. And so finally, the most important truth that will completely transform how you approach your Japan trip. I think this is honestly probably the most important. Japan is a real country with like real people and real problems and real politics, and it can often be real complex. There are parts of Japan that are absolutely gorgeous. There are parts of it that are gritty. There's parts of it that are industrial. Some parts of the culture might inspire you. Some might outright annoy you. Why do I have to handwrite this thing? Why do I need a stamp? Why do I need to fax this? I'm so confused. And that's okay, because that's true of any place ever worth visiting. One of the most rewarding ways, if not the most rewarding way to approach Japan, in my opinion, isn't just like a bucket list destination checkbox or a backdrop to do it for the gram, or for your social media. It's a place worth understanding on its own terms. Traveling to Japan doesn't make you special or more cultured than somebody else who hasn't. What makes your experience valuable is how deeply you interact with it. How open are you to having your perceptions challenged, and how respectfully you interact with the people who call that place home. These truths might seem a bit harsh, but they come from a place of respect and love for Japan and for people who want to experience that for themselves. So now that you learn these truths about Japan, what next? I'd say apply those truths to avoid making some crucial mistakes that I know I made that you can see in this next video.